For over 4 decades, Nintendo has managed to turn pieces of plastic, buttons, and pixels into unforgettable memories. From the first black and white images to vast 3D worlds, each console has told a story. But how did Nintendo go from a simple LCD screen to a global hybrid revolution? Let's discover together the evolution of all Nintendo handheld consoles from 1980 to today. In 1980, Nintendo launched their first handheld console, the Game & Watch. Engineer Gunpei Yokio was the one who brought it to life, creating a simple, compact, but brilliant gadget. A single pre-installed game, a digital clock, and sometimes an alarm. No cartridges, no menu, or saves. Nintendo launched a total of 59 different games and watch models, with popular titles such as Ball, Donkey Kong, Mario Bros., Balloon Fight, and themed versions with licensed characters such as Mickey Mouse. The success was immediate, with over 14 million units sold in the first year alone. In total, the Game & Watch series reached over 43 million units sold worldwide. Over time, the console design evolved. Some models were released with 2 screens and a flip cover, an innovation that later inspired the design of other Nintendo consoles. Decades after its release, the Game & Watch remains an important piece of Nintendo's history, which is why the company has released modern reissues. The Super Mario Bros. Anniversary Edition and the Legend of Zelda version with full NSE games included. In 1989, Nintendo launched the console that would become a global phenomenon in Japan. The Game Boy. The console had a monochrome screen, ran on AA batteries, and most importantly, it had interchangeable cartridges. Tetris was the perfect launch game, simple, addictive, and universal. Then came hits like Super Mario Land and Pokémon Red and Blue, which turned the Game Boy into a cultural phenomenon. Over 300,000 units were sold in the first 2 weeks in Japan alone. In 1996, Nintendo launched the Game Boy Pocket, a more compact, lighter version with an improved, clearer screen illuminating the greenish tint of the first model. In 1998, exclusively for the Japanese market, Nintendo introduced the Game Boy Lite, a rare and desirable version that brought a backlit screen for the first time. In 1998, Nintendo launched the Game Boy Color. The design was similar but thinner, available in various colors and most importantly with a color screen. The Game Boy Color was fully compatible with Game Boy games, but also with new titles that took advantage of the color screens, such as Pokémon Gold and Silver or Zelda Oracle of Ages and Seasons. Together, the Game Boy and the Game Boy Color sold over 118 million units, becoming one of the best-selling console families in history. In 2001, Nintendo completely changed the format and launched the Game Boy Advance. The console abandoned the vertical form, adopted a landscape design, side buttons, and a 32-bit processor. The Game Boy Advance was compatible with Game Boy and Game Boy Color titles. In 2003, the Game Boy Advance SP appeared, an improved version with a foldable design, rechargeable battery, and internal illuminated screen. The 2004 version even brings backlighting, much more efficient. In 2005, Nintendo launched the last model in this line, the Game Boy Micro, an extremely compact console with a modern design, but which was not compatible with older games from the original generation. In total, the Game Boy series has exceeded 200 million units sold worldwide. But Nintendo did not stop there. A new generation is coming, the Nintendo DS. Released in 2004, the new Nintendo DS brought real innovations, a stylus-controlled touchscreen, local and online wireless connectivity, and even compatibility with Game Boy Advance games. The DS was simple at first. It included basic applications such as PictoChat and Download Play, but its potential was huge. Games such as Brain Age, Nintendogs, and Trauma Center used the touchscreen in innovative ways, attracting not only traditional gamers but also new audience. In 2006, the Nintendo DS Lite appeared, a thinner, brighter, and more elegant version. It had the same functions, but in a much more refined design. In 2008, Nintendo launched the DSi with important upgrades to cameras, multimedia applications, the DSiWare, digital store, and an improved interface. The only downside? The lack of a slot for Game Boy Advance games. A year later, the DSi XL brought larger screens and a more comfortable home experience. It included pre-installed applications such as BrainAge, Flipnote Studio, and the Nintendo DS browser. Despite direct competition from the Sony PSP, which was technically superior and capable of playing media such as movies and music, the DS gained ground due to its innovative battery life and variety of games. As a result, the Nintendo DS sold over 154 million units worldwide, almost 80 million more than the PlayStation Portable. After the colossal success of the Nintendo DS, the next step was risky but ambitious. In 2011, Nintendo launched the Nintendo 3DS, a console that promised to bring a new dimension to portable gaming. The design retained the dual-screen format but introduced a revolutionary feature: auto stereoscopy. Basically, players could see 3D images without special glasses, using a system that combined two visual perspectives to create the three-dimensional effect. The 3DS came with a more powerful processor, a superior screen, and compatibility with Nintendo DS games. It also included pre-installed applications and access to the Nintendo eShop, offered digital games until 2023. However, the launch did not go according to plan. The high initial price and the lack of games that really took advantage of 3D led to a modest debut. Just 6 months after its launch, Nintendo significantly reduced the price and offered free games to those who bought their consoles at the original price. In 2012, the Nintendo 3DS XL was released with larger screens and an improved visual experience. In 2013, the Nintendo 2DS was introduced with a low-cost variant without 3D functionality and with a slate-like design without a flip, created specifically for children. Nintendo released a new Nintendo 3DS and new 3DS XL. This came with an improved processor, additional buttons, and new analog stick, C-stick, and an eye-tracking system for a stable 3D experience. The last major revision appeared in 2017. The new Nintendo 2DS XL, a larger console with a foldable design and without 3D, but with most of the features of the previous versions. The direct competition was the Sony PS Vita, a much more technically powerful console. But once again, Nintendo proved that innovation and accessible games matter more than specs. 3DS games sold massively. Pokémon X and Y, over 16 million copies. Mario Kart 7, almost 19 million, and Animal Crossing New Leaf, over 13 million. In total, the Nintendo 3DS family has sold over 75 million units worldwide. In 2017, Nintendo changed the game, launching the industry's first true hybrid console, Nintendo Switch. Switch can be docked to your TV, used as a full-fledged handheld console, or placed on a table for multiplayer gaming. The main screen is 6.2 inches and runs at 720p in handheld mode and can be docked to play games in 1080p. The Joy-Con controllers are detachable, versatile, and come with features like a gyroscope, IR camera, and HD vibration. In 2019, Nintendo released the new Switch Lite, a portable-only variant that was smaller, lighter, lacked docking functionality, and lacked HD vibration. The Switch OLED model followed in 2021. It brought a 7-inch OLED screen, more vivid colors, improved sound, a more solid adjustable stand, and extended battery life. In 2025, Nintendo officially announced the Switch 2 console. It retained the hybrid concept, but came with a larger design, magnetic controllers, and fully compatible with original Switch games. New features included a built-in microphone, a mouse-like input for select games, and expanded connectivity via Nintendo Switch Online. Nintendo Switch has since become a global phenomenon, becoming the 5th most popular gaming console of all time, selling just over 111 million units worldwide. From simple buttons and black and white screens to hybrid consoles and 3D worlds, Nintendo has managed to transform gaming into art. Each generation has brought us not only technology, but also many memories. And today, as the Switch dominates the market and a new era is about to begin with Switch 2, one thing is clear: Nintendo has not only grown with us, but continues to inspire us generation after generation.